Record button here. All right, everyone. Welcome to another exciting virtual meetup. Thank you for joining us at the exciting World of Multifamily Investing meetup. We are truly honored today to have as our co-host Mr. Stephen Pesavento. Stephen is the host of the Investor Mindset podcast, and he does a lot of great things in the multifamily space. I was an attendee in his investor mindset seminar that he did. He was probably one of the first guys to do like the virtual real estate event. I know it's now becoming a thing because of COVID, but at that time, everybody was going live. He did something virtual, and it was full of ton of knowledge. The great set of speakers were there. I learned a lot from it, and I was always looking forward to one day meeting Stephen. And fortunately, we met in Colorado at the Best Ever Conference. Had a great conversation, and I'm honored to have him here, speaking to our community and helping everybody grow their minds and learn how to negotiate great deals as we move into this phase of the economic cycle. So a little bit about Stephen. Stephen has purchased over 200 homes in 3 years, buying every one of those properties directly from sellers. He has trained his own team on these subjects and has put his methods to test. So today he will be sharing with us some of these skills that he's gathered throughout the years. Stephen was also had one of his guests in his show, Chris Voss, the author of Never Split the Difference. So he'll be sharing with us some of those tricks he learned from the top FBI negotiator. So welcome, Stephen, and take it over, please.
Well, hey there, guys. Super excited to be here with everybody and to be able to share some experiences. As you guys know, Stephen Pesavento, I'm the host of the Investor Mindset podcast, and that gives me this amazing opportunity to interview really smart people that are doing the things that I want to do, that you want to do, and be able to pull out that information. That's really the focus of the show. And so I'm a full-time real estate investor. I have been for going on 4 years. I flipped over 200 houses in about 3 years, out of state, in 2 different states, Minnesota and North Carolina. And I'm personally based out of Denver, Colorado. I focus 100% of my time on commercial real estate now with a clear focus on investor relations and marketing in the space. So if you guys are ever looking at a way to get involved on the passive side of real estate, absolutely feel free to reach out to me. I've also got a great resource I'm going to give away at the beginning, middle, and end. So I'm going to remind you guys about this, but take advantage of it. I just finished a 52-page, 11,000-word ebook on passive investing called the Passive Investing Playbook, the Ultimate Guide. Real deep dive. You can get a copy of that at theinvestormindset.com/passive. It's full of some really good stuff in there. But what I'm excited to talk about today is negotiation. And really what negotiation is, in my opinion, is really just another form of communication, right? We're negotiating throughout all these different times in our life. Whether right now I'm essentially in a negotiation for you to believe in my credibility, to believe in the information that I'm sharing with you and that it's valuable and that I believe that it can make a change, and I'm going to negotiate with some really clear reasons on why I think that is something that you guys should really take a close look at and spend some time getting to know and understanding how to be a more effective and better communicator. And so that's why I'm excited that Leslie's brought me on, that he's going to ask some really powerful questions. I've been fortunate, to interview and negotiate against Chris Voss, against a number of other folks, and it's been just a lot of fun. So I'll hand it back over to you, Leslie, to get things started.
All right. Hey, let's get things started. Let's jump right into it. So Stephen, with all these deals that you've negotiated, would you say you have like a go-to strategy when you're looking to negotiate a great deal?
Yeah, so I think about negotiation as I think about sales. I kind of put them in a similar category, even though they're slightly different. And so one of the first places that I like to start whenever I'm getting involved in a negotiation, in a sales situation, really just in a communication situation, is I really think everything does start with mindset. And, at the core, what mindset is the thoughts and beliefs that you have and how they end up playing directly into the actions that you take in your life. Therefore, if you have the right set of thoughts and beliefs, you're going to take the right actions. And so we can learn about what thoughts and beliefs successful people have, and we can model those in our own lives and hopefully see the exact same types of results that are happening from these successful people. And so we have the opportunity to be able to do that ourselves by modeling other successful people. And so I really believe it starts with mindset. And so at the core, where it starts for me is getting in the right state of mind, getting in the right way of thinking before I'm going to go into negotiation, before I'm going to go into a place where I'm going to be communicating, interacting with other people. And one of the strategies that you guys can do to get in that right state to really set things up from a foundational perspective is to spend some time visualizing what success looks like. So if you have a clear idea in your mind, you can get your clear purpose of what you're looking to accomplish and why you're looking to accomplish it, then it makes it much, much more effective for you to actually be able to go into that communication. But that allows you to spend some time visualizing what success looks like, what it feels like to have a successful negotiation. It also gives you a chance, and I recommend this highly in the preparation stage, which I'm going to talk about in a second, is it allows you to visualize the difficult times that you're going to face in that negotiation. In other words, if I'm going to negotiate against Leslie and I'm going to look to buy his vehicle from him, well, what are some of the things that he's maybe going to beat me up on? What are some of the things that he might say to me that might make it a difficult conversation, that might make it uncomfortable? And as we're going through this process, if I've visualized it and gone through dealing with that and feeling those emotions fully before I've actually felt them live in person, I'm going to be in a much better state to stay in the right emotional state to be able to negotiate well. So as I'm moving from state, I'm thinking about how am I going to get my body in the right place. Right now, you can see sitting back, shoulders are back, heads up. I'm feeling confident. If I was like this and I was talking to you like this, you can just see my voice has changed, the tone has changed. And so what you want to do is you want to get your body in the right state of the stance, the position, the energy that you're going to bring. And you can do things like move around, jump around, clap your hands, do silly things, maybe laugh a little bit, shout some incantations, some positive messages, something along the lines of, I feel confident every single way and I'm going to be able to get my message out to other people. Whatever that thing might be for you, you can say that to yourself and essentially you're embedding those thoughts and beliefs in your mind. And so we haven't even started negotiating, but these things end up setting up the negotiation for success. So happy to pause here before I get into kind of the preparation stage, Leslie, and if you have any commentary or anything you want to add.
That's very, very interesting, because I'm glad you bring in that perspective because the power of the mind plays a role in everything that we do. And that's something that I discovered in the last couple of years that has had a huge influence on me personally. And it's the same thing like you go into, let's say you play sports. Before you get on a game, you practice and you visualize yourself in the field performing very well. And there's been a lot of studies showing like athletes that do that visualization before going into the field have like greater performance. So it's interesting that you do the same thing with the negotiation. It's something that I never thought about. So what exactly, like I know you mentioned some of this stuff on here. So what exactly would you call the right mindset for a negotiator before going into a negotiation?
Yeah, so at the core, you want to be feeling good in that state I talked about, but you want to have the belief that this is going to work, right? Okay. So I was an example, right? I was talking to somebody, they gave me a call today. They had a deal, an off-market deal out in Raleigh, North Carolina. We're currently focused 100% on multifamily, but hey, if a deal falls in my lap, why would I not want to run with it? But I said to this person, hey, you want to earn a certain amount of money, right? And he said, yes. And I said, well, hey, will you do all the work? Otherwise, if I'm going to do the work, I'm going to expect most of the reward. And so he was asking me this question. He said, well, hey, what do I say? And I said, well, it comes down to going into it believing wholeheartedly that this person's going to say yes to your offer, believing that the offer and what you're going to be putting together is advantageous, that it's a good thing for them to accept. Now, that doesn't mean that you would accept it. That doesn't mean that you would want the same deal yourself. But what you want to be thinking to yourself is how can you put yourself into the belief that you are going to be putting an offer in front of this person that's going to be good for them. And we're going to get into some other stuff about how to understand what's good for that person and what's going to fit and how to set up the actual offer in a negotiation. But you want to believe that it's going to work. And so if I go into that negotiation with this seller believing that they could accept my offer, that they would accept my offer, and that I can succeed here, then it's more likely that I'm going to bring the right energy. Versus if I go into it thinking, well, hey, Mr. or Mrs. Seller, I know that you probably don't really want to sell your house. And I know it's been a big challenge and trouble, and you kind of go into it not really believing that it's possible. Now that can be a strategy, setting up the right emotional state for the other person to believe that they're winning. That's a strategy we can talk about. But at the core, you got to believe that what they're going to accept is good. And if you don't have that belief, if you don't believe that what you're selling is advantageous, if I go in to raise capital, like I raise capital for multifamily deals, we work with phenomenal operators all across the country, people who have, 5, 10, 15,000 units of experience. People have been doing this a lot longer than me or you, and therefore they bring that experience to the table. If I don't believe that they can execute on the deal, the investor is going to feel that from me. Now, the way that I do that is rather than faking it, because I really think authenticity is key, and why would you want to fake something so important as someone's investment? I go out and search for operators that I can work with who are going to be able to deliver and that I truly 100% believe in. And then I do due diligence and I dive in and I spend a lot of time with, industry's best analysts diving into the numbers where I'm not as strong, making sure that it's right. So that when I go in to talk with somebody who's going to be a potential investor partner on this deal, they feel that true enthusiasm, the authenticity, and that belief that it's good, that it's a good deal, and that it's going to come through. And so you want to make sure you have that mindset going in to a negotiation, going into a conversation, going into a sale, so that the other person feels, that authentically, that you're looking out for their interests as well as your own.
That's perfect. That's perfect. So you want to dive into any other preparatory steps that you do before going into a negotiation?
Yeah, so the next step after you get your mindset in the right place, and there's a lot more you can do there. Definitely recommend checking out the podcast, checking out the book, Think and Grow Rich. I've read it a few times, but I'm rereading it right now. It was written in 1931, I believe, maybe 1937. It was about how men make money. In other words, how people make money. And it was good back then. First personal development book ever written. Still a phenomenal book. So you get your mindset in the right place, and then you go in, how am I going to prepare for the specific negotiation itself? And you want to gather as much information as you possibly can beforehand. If you're looking at buying a single family house or a multifamily deal, you're going to learn about the market. You're going to learn about the neighborhood. You're going to learn about the expectations, about cap rate and costs and all these things. You're going to prepare well before you get into a negotiation, before you sit down across the seller, get on the phone, so that you're educated, so that you've got the information in your head or close by that you can reference. You're going to understand all the benefits of your offer. You're going to understand all the reasons why this person might say yes. You're going to kind of list out these things on paper for yourself as notes of all the reasons why they could say no. And you're going to maybe do a little bit of extra preparation of thinking through, well, if they said no to this because of this, that I'm going to think, well, what would be something that I'd want to share that's honest and truthful that might allow them to think differently, that might convince them, that might put them in a place where they see the world the way that I see it. And so by preparing and going through what are all the opposition statements and what are all the statements for why they'd want to do this deal, you can go in kind of with your, you're locked and loaded, you're ready to have that ammunition to be able to have those conversations. And there's some stuff we'll talk about a little bit later, but you'll essentially plan what are some of the mirrors, what are some of the labels, and I'm going to explain those in a little bit, so that you've got some stuff ready, and you're not just going in blind. You're not just shooting from the hip. You've thought through a little bit how the conversation might go, the same way I might think through how this presentation might go. And so that planning and preparation leads you into what I'm going to call the discovery phase, which is where I'm going to actually be spending time talking with the prospect.
Oh, that's great. That's great. All right. So, can you go over you can, as you dive into the discovery phase, can you tell us like one of the toughest deals that you've ever had to negotiate, and why? Why was it that difficult?
Yeah, so I'll answer that question, then we'll come back to discovery. But the hardest negotiation I ever had was negotiating against Chris Voss on the show. So I had him on the podcast, a little background information, had him on, a lot of conversations that led up to the opportunity to be able to speak with him. 8 months of work and serving and delivering value and negotiation with the best negotiators to get him on the show. Got him on the show. Happened to be in a bad place in life. Had a family member situation that had happened. Somebody passed away. But I was like, I'm going to be in the right state. I'm going to make this interview happen. And we're going to do it. So we finished the interview, and it was a phenomenal interview. And I say, hey, well, I'd love to be able to be of service and value. I'd love to be able to promote one of your products free to my audience because I think they'll get value from it. I don't expect anything in return. But would it be a bad idea to do a promotional video that will attract people in and something that somebody might want to watch and then decide to buy one of your products? So of course he said, no, that's not a bad idea, which we'll get into a little bit later. But so we end up, I negotiate against, the world's #1 hostage negotiator live on camera with no preparation. Now I've read his books 15 times probably or more, listened to it a lot of times. Definitely use the stuff in my business, teach my team it, teach other people it. I know how to do this stuff, but we get into the negotiation and he's the hostage negotiator and I'm the hostage taker. And in this 60-second conversation, he breaks my mind. Like he used some of these strategies and tactics from years of negotiating to essentially shut down my brain. I wasn't thinking right. I wasn't thinking straight. Nothing that I said was working. And so I kind of felt backed into a corner. And what you'll see when you watch that, you can just head over on YouTube. It's like one of the #1 videos that we have. I think we're at like 25,000 views on it since it went up a few months ago. But
Wow.
the crazy thing is you see when that break happens, when he broke me. Now he points out, hey, you did some things good. I like this, but this is where you lost it. And then you actually see me negotiate again after that from a different position. And that was the hardest one because I was coming in from a place of lacking all leverage, confidence, and state and mindset. He just broke me. And then now we're going right in live on camera into another negotiation where I'm supposed to come at it from a different angle. I didn't have a chance to regroup. And so the lesson learned would obviously be, hey, if you're not feeling right, take a break from a negotiation, say, hey, give me 5 minutes, I need to come back. But grateful for the opportunity because it was a lot of fun.
Wow. I can imagine it. I can imagine. Please, when you get a chance, go on YouTube and check that out. You definitely could grab some strong skills from that. All right. So you want to jump in the second phase?
Yeah, let's go back to discovery because this is where a lot of stuff comes together, right? You go in, you've got the right state of mind, you got the right beliefs, you've prepared, you understand what things might come up. You can't plan for everything. And now you're going to go into discovery. So you're going to go in without a set of expectations. You've done your preparation, but you're going to go from a place of listening first, and you're going to set expectations with them. So one of the ways I do this on calls quite often is I might say, hey, definitely looking forward to talking to you today. Typically, I've got a couple questions. It might take 15, 20 minutes, might take an hour. Looks like we've got to the end of the hour. Whatever it is, I'm going to set an expectation for the conversation, and then I'm going to give them a pretty definitive what's going to be the next step after. And so I might say, hey, looks like, it typically takes about 15, 20 minutes just to kind of get a good idea of what you're looking for the property. And based on that, if it seems like something we're interested in buying, I'll give you kind of a clear yes or no. And if it sounds like this isn't a good fit, would you mind doing the same? And then I might say, great, well, Awesome, let's dive into it. So I've just set an expectation with the person. Now they know, hey, this is essentially how the conversation's going to go. This is going to be what we're going to be doing. And they also feel safe knowing that they've got this structure. They're not going to be on a sales call for 2 hours. They know it's going to be 7 to 10 minutes or 20 minutes. Or they know that we're not going to make a decision today, or they know that the expectation is we're going to make a decision. So you want to set those expectations, whatever is appropriate for you. If you're negotiating for a car on a lot, you might say, hey, I'm looking to make a decision today before I leave. If you can give me your absolute best offer and it meets what I'm looking to do, then I'm happy to walk away with a car. If we're not able to do that, no sweat. I'm not super committed to making it happen if it doesn't line up, but if it does, I'd love to. And every salesperson is going to appreciate that. And if you're on the other side of that as the salesperson, your prospect's going to appreciate that. And so I'm saying sales and negotiation interchangeably because I think they end up playing a role together. You end up negotiating when doing sales. And I think all of life and communication is sales because you're always selling. And selling is a good thing in my eyes. Some people think of sales as a bad thing. But the thing is, you're going to spend some time building rapport, and you build rapport by asking questions. Now, you can build rapport by saying, hey, we're both from the same country. We're both from the same state. We both love the Vikings or the Packers, or we don't care about sports at all, or we have kids or we don't. We can build rapport through some of these other methods that end up going down the path of we've got that clear connectivity. But the other way that you build rapport is you get the person talking. So the way that I might be doing that is I'm going to be doing that discovery process, and I might be trying to find out their motivation. So I'm going to ask questions specifically to understand their needs, their wants, and their desires. Why are you thinking about selling the house? Why are you thinking about investing in real estate? What are you looking to accomplish out of real estate? How does investing in real estate, how will that impact your life? Like, what's the end goal for you? What does that look like? Now, I'm sincerely curious. So I want you guys, the key part of this discovery thing is you need to actually listen intently to every word that they say and show them that you're listening by responding, by adding words in like, I know, yeah, exactly. So you're building that rapport by kind of showing that, hey, you understand where they're coming from. And there's a strategy that Chris Voss talks about called mirroring. And it's not mirroring where you're going to use the same tone of voice or the same dialect or the same speech pattern. That's a different kind of mirroring. This mirroring is where you might say the last 3 words someone said. And so I might say, hey, you look like you're having a hard time. And then I might say, hard time? And they're going to then answer back and start explaining more. And by using this mirroring technique, you can essentially have somebody continue talking without ever asking another question, and they'll start telling you everything that you want to know. And so it's really helpful when you're talking to people who are like me, assertive people, people who want to talk and like talking. They're easy to mirror because we just want to keep going. We want to be understood. So in this stage, you're just asking questions. And then the second part of the stage, and I'll toss it back to you, Leslie, is understanding deal killers. So you're going to understand all the reasons why they wouldn't say yes to a deal. So you want to discover first why they want to do it. What's their motivation? What do they want to accomplish out of it? What might they want? You might find price here. You might find interest rate requirements. You might find, how much investing capital they have to invest with you. You might find out what their end goal is. Do they care more about making money, or do they just want to have a good relationship with you and know that they're safe and protected? But in the deal killer section, you're going to find out like who else is involved in making a decision that might not be on the call with you. Is time going to be an issue? Do I need to get this done today? And they're thinking maybe in 6 months or a year, or are we on the wrong timeline? Or maybe competition. You might want to find out, hey, are you looking at investing in other places? Or are you thinking about selling to other people? Why not sell to them? It's better to just call it out and have that conversation, understand what they're thinking about. Because in this discovery phase, what you're doing is you're really spending almost all of your time finding out information. And so all the questions you ask are to discover what they think and what they want. Now, you got to have some assumptions, but you never want to assume that they're right. You always want to confirm your assumptions if you have them. And once you've got the discovery phase, now you got all the information, and that information is going to allow you to make the offer. And so in the offer stage, it's easy because you've just learned everything that's possible. And now there's different strategies for negotiating in this stage, but you're going to essentially make them an offer that shows, hey, this gives them what they want. So if someone wants to invest with me and they're looking for a consistent 12% return, and they want to know their money's safe and in a secure place and that they can expect to have it returned and they get this benefit or that benefit. Now I know that I can then present the offer and say, well, great, actually what I have fits that perfectly. Now, if it doesn't fit it perfectly, you don't want to lie. You don't want to say it does, but you want to position it in a way that says, hey, well, I meet those needs. I get you to that perfect place that you want to be, or I get you to that place of pain by making this offer. And then we can talk more about like strategies on the negotiation piece after that. How's that sound, Leslie?
Well, that sounds really great. That sounds really great. So going into a negotiation, do you need any kind of leverage? Do you need to go in with leverage going into a negotiation?
So I think you ask a good question. People always hear about leverage, and it's good to kind of understand what leverage is. Leverage is really just who has the most to lose if this is a no deal. In other words, who has the most to lose if you tell me, hey, it's not going to work out, or I tell you it's not going to work out. Now, whoever has the most to lose, the other person has leverage, and that leverage can be small or it can be really big. So if I've got $1 million left on a raise and I'm talking to a person who can write $1 million check and the deal is supposed to close in 60 days, he doesn't have that much leverage. But if the deal is supposed to close in 6 hours and he can wire the money right now, he's got a lot of leverage. And so that person's got a lot of leverage. That person has the ability to probably dictate better terms. And it'll be harder for me to say no unless I negotiate against my own best interest, which people definitely do. So it's not emotional. People negotiate for emotional reasons first and they justify logically. So leverage plays a role, but I like to think of it, you discover what leverage you maybe have versus they have in that discovery period. And I usually don't think about it as leverage, but I think if I was defining what I'm going through my head of how I could push or what opportunities there are to find common ground, then I would definitely be thinking about it from a leverage perspective. But one last thing from a philosophy that I kind of go with, there's definitely kind of a win-lose philosophy where I've got to win and the other person's got to get drugged through the mud. Not my philosophy. It can happen. It works. The problem that I think with this philosophy, if you go in with it, is that deals are short-term. You're not building a relationship. You're essentially going cutthroat and thinking this is a one-time thing and I'm not going to end up working with this person again. There's kind of that win-win philosophy where it's like, I win, you win, it's all good. I like this philosophy because I'm kind of a giver first. I want to like have those long-term relationships. But I think there's somewhere another philosophy, which is kind of this never split the difference philosophy. And the idea is that if you were just to give the other person what they want, and you're not going to negotiate and you're not going to ask for anything different, then they're not going to feel like they really got the best deal. So a little negotiation is really powerful for having people feel like things are right. And I'll show you an example. I'm in the midst of selling a vehicle that I own, talking with the people who are buying it. I'm telling them that I just dropped the price. I don't have very much room to drop the price again. Whether that's true or false, I'm setting that expectation up front that I don't have very much room. But then if I'm able to give them any leeway, I build a little bit of leeway into that price so I could drop it from say 28,500 down to 28,000. Because by going from a place of I won't negotiate, there's no room, to them feeling like they got that $500 out of me, they feel like it's a huge win. And now I want the 500, but I know that it's a stronger deal for them and they'll end up having a better feeling, a better experience, even if I never meet them again. And so it's good to kind of give a little bit and make sure that you're not negotiating to the last term. That's kind of the philosophy that I live by. And it's the thought is you always want to make sure that you never push it that last piece, because you might break the deal. Maybe you get a little bit more money, but you probably don't end up building a long-term relationship.
So what I'm hearing from you is like the relationship, building that long-term relationship is more important than getting a quick win.
That's it.
Yeah, perfect. So, and that's one of the reasons why I asked that leverage questions, because a lot of times we think it's either I guess a lot of people operate over the win-lose situation kind of business, and a lot of salespeople we meet out that interact with that give us like that negative sense of sales is like they just want to get something and get out. And for someone like yourself that has done over 200 deals, I believe there's got to be a better way to do it, and which is great, which is great learning from that. So I think you already went over the right mindset to have going into a negotiation. Like, so what do you think is the greatest obstacle anybody can have before they start negotiating for the right deal?
I think the biggest obstacle 99% of people have is that they need to be a better listener, and they need to seek to understand rather than seek to be understood. In other words, in our daily lives, we all get caught up with this feeling and with this drive of ego, of a need to be right, a need to be offended, a need to be superior, et cetera, et cetera. So you've got these needs and you feel like, man, I just need them to understand me. I need them to understand where I'm coming from, the feeling that they have. But really, if you can focus more of your time seeking to understand them, asking inquisitive questions and spending that time being a good listener and showing them that you're actively listening, rather than I ask a question and then I'm just like, yep, okay. And the only thing that comes out of my mouth is a response or an argument or thinking of that next thing that's going to be said. If I'm spending more of my time actively listening, looking at that person in the eye, even if I'm talking on the phone, actively responding to them and showing that I'm listening, commenting on what they're saying, but in a way that builds that rapport and connectivity, it ends up leading to a much stronger negotiation. And like I said, I've reframed negotiation as just another form of communication. It's just another form of having two parties get to the place that they really want to get to. And now every single day you're going to be negotiating, because you're going to negotiate with your wife. What are we having for dinner? You're going to negotiate with your kids. You're going to negotiate with your friends about all these different things. It's just conversation. It's just communication. But if you can spend more time in negotiating, being a great listener, it'll be better for everybody involved.
In this world full of so many distractions, I think the listening piece is very key, and it can be challenging. Are there any things that you do to help yourself in becoming a better listener, to keep the things aside when you're talking to someone?
So I think at the core, you want to remember to be present. Like right now, I'm with you. I'm not texting on my phone. I'm not responding to email. I'm not thinking about what other people are doing elsewhere. I'm 100% right here with you guys, listening to what you have to say, responding accordingly. And so being present is probably first and foremost. And in order to be present, you've got to be able to have the mind of clearing some of the thoughts that are going on and bouncing in all the time out. So how do you do that? Well, one way to do that is to spend some time meditating, spending some time calming that mind, bringing yourself from I have a thought, the thought is passing. I have a thought, the thought is passing. And that you're able to let that thought go, so that when you have that idea pop up in the middle of talking to somebody, you're able to let it go, continue to focus, continue to talk to that person, continue to ask questions. So I think that's one. I think another thing, like I mentioned, that strategy of mirroring, that strategy of using what some people might call softening statements, like, I know exactly what you mean. Oh, you're right. Yeah, absolutely. Hey, I totally know what you mean. I've been there too. It's something that actually is just connecting while they're talking, and it's not you speaking over them. It's not you kind of jumping in. It's the nodding of the head. It's the, the eye contact and recognizing through that nonverbal that, okay, we're connected. I'm understanding where you're coming from. I'm 100% with you. So those two things right there will definitely help.
Absolutely. I agree with you on the meditation part. That meditation it's very, very powerful. It's something that I practice as well, and has had a lot of great effects on me. So if you would say if there was one big lesson that you learned from Chris Voss and like having him on your show and talking to him face to face, what would that lesson be?
I think the biggest lesson from Chris is, well, there's a lot, right? There's a lot of great strategies that he kind of outlines and he puts words to. But I think a couple of them that are really important is the tone of voice matters a lot. So I'm an assertive person by nature. I'm going to tell you exactly what I think. Maybe you might be offended. I hope not. I definitely care. But I might just say things because I need to get it out. But realizing that the tone of voice makes a big difference. So when you're kind of being playful and like, hey, no, I totally know what you mean. I was actually thinking a number more like 100,000. And so the difference between me being playful and connecting and then switching over to this voice, which he calls the FM DJ voice, and it's where you slow down and you're specific and you're patient and it makes people listen a little bit more. And so when you're able to go from I'm playful, you like me, we're having a good time, it's real energy, right? That state matters, to I'm about to tell you something that you really need to listen to. Like, I'm going to offer you 100,000 for your house, but you're expecting the offer of 200,000. Like, you're going to listen up close and I've just slowed down the whole tone of the conversation. And so it feels weird at first, like when you think FM DJ voice, but try it out. Try it out by yourself in front of the mirror or in front of the computer. Throw on QuickTime on your computer or on your phone, record yourself doing it, watch it, laugh at yourself, how stupid you look. And then eventually you'll start getting good at it. And what you'll notice is that a lot of these things are strategies, are tactics. I'm laying out things that I naturally have been doing for as long as I can remember. The mirroring strategy that I talked about, where you're saying those last three words, like the last three words. And you're saying that in an inquisitive way. I've been doing that for a long time. And so have you. A lot of you guys are doing this, but it's about learning the strategies that are available so that you can use them intentionally. But also recognizing that other people are having this stuff going on and you're going to recognize it, and to not think of it as a bad thing. Think of it as a thing that, hey, this is just natural human communication that somebody's understood enough that can be really, really powerful. So those are probably a couple of the things that really made a big difference, just understanding how tone matters. And especially if you're talking on the phone, because if you close your eyes from me talking right now, and then you hear me talk right now, it's a very different tone of voice when I'm talking without a smile or versus I'm talking with a smile. And so that comes through, right? It comes through on the phone calls. It comes through when you're talking to your spouse and you're in a shitty mood or you just had a bad day at work. All of that stuff comes through. And so it definitely comes through when you're negotiating.
Wow, that's fascinating because when you did that, I actually felt it, like the effect when you changed the tone and did the 100,000. Like I could actually feel the effect, and it really did capture my attention. So that is really, really fascinating stuff, man. And appreciate you for sharing that with us. Um, so is there anything else about the negotiating process that you think you haven't hit that you'd like to share with us?
So there's a book I'm going to recommend. And if you guys like free things, then you're really going to like this. If you are an audiobook person, there's a book called Start With No. It was written by an author named Jim Camp, C-A-M-P. And Jim Camp is Chris Voss's one of his mentors. Chris talks about him early on in his career, doesn't talk about him in podcasts as much anymore. But he wrote a book called Start With No. Start With No is never split the difference, but more of a coach's version of it. So the whole philosophy, I highly recommend you read the book, but go grab the audiobook for free, download it onto your phone, but listen to it as if you paid for it, which means listen to it as if you need to get all the information you possibly can. Pretend to yourself you wrote a $10,000 check, and that $10,000 you're going to earn back by listening to that book. Because people prioritize what they pay for, which is why when you coach with me or you coach with other people, there's always a price connected to it, because I'll give a lot of free information. But when someone pays for it, even if I gave the same information, they'll get a lot more from it. So do that little trick of pretend you paid $10,000 for the book and then go and find $10,000 worth of value. But if you listen to this book, there's an idea, and Chris talks about it as well, and this idea of starting with no, of rather than going for yes, go for no. So an example, how do you use this in real life? Well, you just change all of the questions that you might ask at certain times to no-oriented questions. So an example might be, hey, Leslie, so I automatically go to the no, but I got to go to the yes first, right? So, hey, Leslie, is now a good time to talk? You're looking for a yes, right? You're looking for a yes. Hey, Leslie, do you have 10 minutes? Versus, hey, Leslie, is now a bad time? Hey, Leslie, I can't even go it's funny. Leslie, is now a bad time? Leslie, you wouldn't happen to have 7 minutes to talk to me real quick? What you automatically want to do is you want to say no to people before you even think about anything they have to ask. So you automatically want to say no. So why not frame the question in a way that it makes it comfortable and easy for them to say no? Because typically the negotiation starts when people start saying no. They got to say no a number of times, right? I said, no, I'm not going to drop the price in the car 3 or 4 times. I dropped the price in the car by 500, right? I knew that going in, that I had the space. I created the space. I wanted the more money, but I left a little bit of opening for that. But if you can start thinking about how do you switch every question that you ask to a no-oriented question. So you might, a challenge I might encourage you guys to do. So who's up for a challenge? Will you guys raise your hand or drop something in the chat box that you guys are listening to me? I can see some people on video here. I got 1 or 2 people. Drop into the chat box if you guys are open to a simple challenge, and that you guys are here with me. Just want to make sure people are listening. So
Chelsea says,
Chelsea, we got a couple others. So, okay, so here's the challenge, is go into public and ask for a discount. So we're in COVID-19 time, so maybe going to Starbucks isn't as easy as it used to be. But go to places where it's a guarantee nearly that you're not going to get a discount and ask for one. And so go to Starbucks every day or wherever you're going to go buy something, and go to Target and say, hey, can I get 10% off? You know, hey, can I get a discount today? Try it like that. Now, you're going to get a no anyways, but get comfortable hearing the no, get comfortable with that rejection. It'll make you much stronger. The other thing that you can do is reverse that. Hey, you wouldn't happen to have a nice guy discount. Hey, you wouldn't happen to be able to give me a discount, would you? And you'd be surprised. Once you get comfortable hearing no and hearing that rejection, one, it doesn't have as much power. And so anytime that I'm feeling like afraid of asking for it, I know I have to, that's my trigger. If I feel like I don't want to, then I have to. That's my little mindset trick. So I got to do it. An example of that was I would do cartwheels through public because it was uncomfortable. So I didn't care as much about people, what they thought. So it was more comfortable for me to have difficult conversations. You can try these little weird tricks, but if you ask that question in a no-oriented format by saying, hey, you wouldn't happen to be able to give me a discount, would you? You know, you wouldn't happen to be able to hook me up with your employee discount, would you? It's surprising how many times I've gotten 20% off, 30% off. I actually bought a pair of shoes where I ended up paying less than I would have. After paying tax and everything, I don't even know. The guy said he wouldn't do it. On my receipt, there was a discount. So go try it. Go try it from the place of knowing you're going to get a no, but being open to receiving a yes. and I promise it'll be a game changer for you.
Wow. Just out of curiosity, Stephen, when were you doing those cartwheels?
Yeah, I started doing those cartwheels about before I started real estate. So that was 2015.
Oh
I
wow.
was out in Orange County and different places. I would think of it, one cartwheel a day was the commitment, but I had to do it anytime I thought of it.
Mm-hmm.
You only think about it in those weird times when you're in the mall or Target or someplace that's clearly people are judging. But by doing that, it's called rejection therapy. You essentially be more comfortable asking for things that or other people think are uncomfortable, which sets you up for success in sales and entrepreneurship, in all types of things. So definitely recommend it. If you're interested in other strategies, go into Google and type rejection therapy in. There's a guy named Noah Kagan, Tim Ferriss, a number of other guys who talk a lot about these things.
Yeah, I think that rejection, that fear of rejection is one of the biggest obstacles that stop people from starting or going anywhere. And it's one thing that I had to go or overcome myself and deal with. And your investor summit, your mindset summit last summer played an important role in that. You know, I used to refer to myself as an introvert, but what I learned later on down the line is because it's like I was afraid, not necessarily just that I was an introvert, and once you challenge those fears and go out, then great things start happening. So on that note, Stephen, tell us where you see the market right now, the real estate market, and where do you see things going? And how can members of this community take advantage or prepare themselves for what is the changes that are coming?
So that is a great question. And just because I remembered it, and I told you at the beginning that I was going to bring this up 3 times,
Mm-hmm.
if you guys have found what I'm sharing valuable, I'm going to ask for a favor from you right now to go onto your podcasting app and to subscribe to the Investor Mindset. And then if you really thought it was valuable, to drop a review. If you've already listened to the show, great. Drop whatever review if you feel is comfortable. 1 star, 5 stars is preferred. And write something up. It helps hugely with me reaching more people. The second thing I promised I'd bring up was to go check out that passive investor playbook, and you can grab that at theinvestormindset.com/passive. But the reason why that's important is because if you can start understanding some of the different strategies, as we dive through how to be a good active investor, how to be a better passive investor, how to understand where you fit and what you're actually looking for, how to get clear on your goals, and you'll essentially get into this little education program that's free for 7 days that kind of walks you through some of the stuff that I'm about to share with you. But to answer your specific question, where do I think the market is going and how do you prepare for the market? Well, the way you prepare is by education. That's why I started with sharing that resource that I spent weeks putting together, because you've got to get educated. If you think you know everything, you're wrong, for sure. I'm always getting educated myself. I know that I don't know. The more that I grow older, the more that I learn, the more I realize I don't know. And for everyone who's older than me, you know exactly what I'm talking about, because as you get older, you realize you know less and less. So I would definitely start out by continuing to get educated, but start taking action, right? We're in a unique market cycle where it's not clear exactly what's going to happen. The way that my mentors kind of advise on it is that we are in a time of uncertainty, but there's always uncertainty. The difference is that things are happening much faster. So because they're happening much faster, it feels more uncertain. It's the same amount of uncertainty, it's just shrunk into a smaller time. So where's the market going to go and how do we best position ourselves to leverage it? Well, we definitely want to keep coming to events like this, listen to great podcasts, engage with people who are putting out great content, who are in the know, or who are interviewing or connecting with people who are in the know about where the market's at, about what strategies are working, what's not working, and keep staying in that conversation because it's like a mastermind, right? It's an opportunity for you to hear from other people, realize that other people are succeeding and other people are trying and other people are taking action, and therefore you should be out there taking action. You should be doing that stuff. So I happen to be of the belief, and I don't know, I don't have a crystal ball. I left mine at home and I happen to be traveling right now. So I can't tell you what's going to happen. What I can tell you is that without a doubt, this is the time that will lead to millions and billions of dollars of returns for real estate investors. People are going to make a lot of money. Now, people are also going to lose a lot of money. So you don't want to be on the losing side, but you want to make sure that you're not being in fear. Because the fear mode of sitting on the sideline and just waiting it out, well, you might as well just get out of the game altogether, because there's never a time where there's 100% certainty. There's never a time where things are right. And so if you keep building a habit of sitting on the sideline, of not taking action, of not finding a way to get involved, that doesn't mean you have to go do it yourself. That doesn't mean you have to invest passively. That doesn't mean you have to take huge risk, but it does mean that you do have to make incremental progress. And one of my mentors talks about this, and I absolutely love it, so I'm adopting it. 2 minutes every day is better than 2 hours on a Saturday. And so what does that mean? That means continue day after day to make progress towards those real estate goals. So ways that you can do that: definitely check in, see what's going on in the market, but don't just check the news. The news is full of negative information that's designed to scare you and to put you into a state of craze. So look at leaders in the industry, people like Leslie, who are out there doing it, taking action, and look to them and see, what are they doing? How are they acting right now? Are they purchasing? Are they open to it? If they're specifically not, who are they looking to? Who are their mentors? And what are they doing? And so where my belief is about what's going to happen in the market, I think we're obviously in a recession. I think that for the next 6 to 18 months, we're going to be in a continuous time of uncertainty in the market. Currently, what we're seeing in the multifamily market in particular is that asset prices have not decreased. There is not a decrease in value currently. And part of the reason, my belief, and I'm not an expert at everything, but this is what I'm hearing from a lot of people and what I'm believing myself, is that there's so much capital available in the market. There's so many people on this call right now who are probably ready to invest 50,000 in a deal that I have, or 50,000 in a deal Leslie has, and would be happy to get a 6% or 12% or 15 or 20% return, whatever it might be. There's so many people looking for a return that asset prices aren't going to go down anytime soon. Now, what's going to happen with rents? Sure, there's going to be some areas that are going to get hit hard. Maybe some people are going to mismanage properties. Those opportunities are always going to come. There's a lot of people who are going to be afraid and they're going to get out of the market altogether. There's a lot of people on this call, unfortunately, who are probably never going to take action. Now, don't make that be one of you. If you do give up for a year or 6 months or 10 years, just get back up and start doing it again. Don't let that one-time failure stop you from having the success. But I happen to think that we're going to essentially deal with a flattening in the market, and that by working with operators with a lot of experience who know how to operate really well and know how to find and look at and underwrite great deals, that you're going to be in a good, solid position. But I'm also personally operating from a place of conservative purchases. So I'm not expecting the same returns I was expecting before. I'm only investing with operators who are going into it from a perspective of conservative first, cash preservation first. Even if that means lower return, I'd rather have a lower return than not have my capital back. And I've personally gone through some extremely large losses, not large compared to others, larger than I would have ever expected. Flipping 200 houses, you're going to have some houses that you have to write $70,000 checks on. And I've also had lenders, people I lent money to, who talked about bankruptcy, who talked about never paying me my money back. Now, fortunately, I did get all that capital back and we were able to work things out. But the point being, going from a conservative place is not necessarily bad when there's uncertainty, but I do think it's bad to not take any action and to just completely sit out, because every single day your money is losing 3% because inflation's still happening. And it may happen at a much higher rate with the amount of money that's been pumped into the market. So just some thoughts, take it for what it is.
That's great. And please, if you have any questions, drop them in the chat so that we can start asking Stephen some of the questions that you guys asked. Again, Stephen, thank you so much for all the knowledge you bring in, and thank you for joining us. I also like to take a minute to recognize one of our attendees here, Mr. Jerome Myers, all the way from Greensboro, North Carolina. He's a big player in the space, so reach out to him. Please network with him as well. He could teach you some great things on here. Um,
What's up, Jerome? Didn't even see you in there.
Thank you for joining us, brother. Let me unmute you here. Unmute.
You got the Matrix background going
I
right
know
there.
he's stepping out of he took the red pill, like you said. Yeah. So if you have any questions, drop them in the chat.
While we're waiting for a couple to come in, I'll just share a couple other strategies that I learned from Chris and that I apply in my own life. So um, get those in there. Jerome, we just allowed you to unmute yourself. If you want to jump in, you're welcome to. But
Hey, I
yeah.
was just gonna say what's up, Steve. I haven't talked to you in a while, but I heard you talking about Raleigh. I wish you would have sent me the deal instead of hogging everything, man. I'm actually in North Carolina. You taking this stuff down from Denver, man. Come on, share the wealth.
Dude, man, you're doing so many deals out there yourself. You got to share the wealth with some of us out of towners who just try to get a return. I love it. I love it. So one of the things that I really love that Chris Voss talks about is something called labels. And so while we're waiting for a couple questions to roll in, there's this idea of a label. And what a label is essentially when you think somebody's thinking something, you label it. You might mislabel it on purpose to get them to answer. And so an example of this, it's probably easier for me to give an example. So I might say to Leslie, we're negotiating to buy a house. And I might say to Leslie, hey, Leslie, I know you think I'm just here to take your house and I'm not going to pay anything for it. So I'm kind of labeling a feeling. A label is, it seems like, it sounds like, it looks like, or so I might say, Leslie, hey, it seems like you think I'm here just to kind of rob you. And then he's going to say, no, I don't think that. And then he's going to tell me actually what he's thinking or feeling, right? And so when we can learn these strategies, I just want to introduce these to you because I really recommend you go grab Never Split the Difference. I really recommend you go online and research some of this stuff, watch some of these videos, hear some of this stuff in action. But when you're able to use this, it's able to set up things for better discovery. So Jerome asked a great question here. What's the toughest negotiation you've been in? You missed my long explanation of it, but what I talked about, Jerome, was when I negotiated against Chris Voss on recording. So you guys can all check that out on the YouTube channel. I think it's the top video there.
And there's gonna be a recording of this being sent out to everybody that is attending. So Stephen dropped a lot of golden nuggets on this meetup. So if you missed it or if you came in late, you're gonna be getting some other stuff that you could watch later. And again, we have Stephen for a few more minutes. So if you have any questions, here's your chance. Please don't be shy. Ask questions, network, talk to people. We're all here to help everybody grow, and we're all here to learn as well. So if you have any questions, please ask.
Hardest real estate deal negotiation, Jerome? That's a good question. I never really think about them from being like the hardest, but I'll talk about one of them that was actually a really good negotiation. And it was a deal that I bought 100% over the phone. Now, for the most part, we spend most of our time buying in person. We sit down face to face. I had a team in North Carolina that was focused on in-person acquisitions because the face-to-face, that looking at somebody in the eye makes it a lot more strong. But I was in a negotiation with this gentleman. It was right when we were getting started in the business. It was one of probably the second or third or fourth deals that I had purchased, but I had talked with this person at length. I had spent a lot of time in the discovery phase, like we talked about, asking questions, understanding his situation, understanding what he was looking to do. And where we were getting caught up, the deal killer was that he was really stuck on price, but time wasn't important to him. He didn't care a lot about how long it took for him to get his money. He cared most about price. And we were in a tough spot because we were finding it that his house was unique enough that it was difficult for us to agree on the price that he was looking at. But if we were able to squeeze out just that $5,000 to $10,000, to get down closer to the price that we wanted, that it was a deal we'd be happy to take down. It was a project that we were going to renovate and resell, so we're going to flip the property. So I was in this conversation with this guy. You know, he's probably 30 years my senior. I'm like a 28-year-old kid. I'm talking about buying a house. I'm talking about my partner. I'm creating credibility because my partner had been flipping houses for 20 years. He had built hundreds of houses. It was one of the reasons I partnered with him because, again, back to my multifamily philosophy, it's all about partnering with people who are the best at what they do. Partner with great limited partners and passive investors who are going to bring their capital from making money doing what they're the best at and partnering with operators. So that's what I did in single family. So I had a great operator who would be able to execute for us and somebody that I could use to be able to make sure that we had that credibility. And I'm talking with him, and I essentially made him an offer that I thought, no way in hell he's going to accept this, right? You hear about seller finance deals, but until you've done one, it kind of seems crazy that someone's going to write a note to somebody they've never met on a property they already own, and they want to sell it. Why the hell would they not just put it on the market and list it? Well, this guy, Ed was his name, and the property was Ballybunion out in Raleigh on a nice golf course. Beautiful house, great opportunity for us to renovate it. Hadn't been updated since like 1980. And I'm talking with him, and I'm thinking to myself, well, hey, I've heard about this seller finance thing. Why don't I bring it up to him? Well, the reason why it was so hard was because I had no confidence. So I was faking the confidence in this situation, but I brought it up to him, and he was like, I might be open to it. And so the reason why it was tough was because it ended up taking 2 weeks of following up with him to end up getting the deal done. Now he accepted our terms. I paid no interest for 8 months. He held the note. We didn't put any money down. We bought the house. We renovated it. We resold it. We made 45 or 50 grand on it. So it was definitely a successful deal. But the reason it was hard because I was not in the right state. I was definitely faking that confidence. I wasn't well prepared to make an offer. So that preparation step that I was talking about knowing the different options and the different places that you can go in the negotiation and the different offers that you can put out there. I essentially made him an offer I didn't think he'd accept. He said yes, and I was like, oh shit, what do we do from here? I don't know how do we get this done? But fortunately, there was enough credibility there where he was happy to work with us, and we got the deal done, and it was a success.
Oh, that's great. There's another question here. Has negotiation become like second nature to you with experience?
I think it does. I think it's just like anything, right? So I talked about mindset at the beginning. I talked a lot about the mindset to have. Well, all of that stuff is the same mindset you need to have every day when you get up in front of your computer and you start working or talk to anybody. It's just practice. So the more that you practice, the more likely that it's going to come out naturally and come out consistently. So just like on my podcast, if you listen to episode number 1, it's better than a lot of people, but it's pretty bad compared to what I'm doing now. And so I'm much more comfortable speaking even on camera and being able to speak now than I was a year and a half ago. So the more opportunities you have, the more practice that you take by going out and negotiating and trying some of the strategies that we talked about in your normal life, like at Starbucks asking for the discount, or, at the hotel asking for, some kind of room upgrade, which Chris Voss always refers to. These different places that you can have these low stakes practice end up allowing you that when you're actually negotiating, when it matters, it will come out feeling more natural. Because the first time that it comes out, it's not gonna feel natural. It's not gonna sound good. You're gonna look back and we record a lot of our phone call conversations when we were doing these sales. So maybe I could dig up that negotiation with this guy. It'd be actually probably pretty funny to listen to 3 or 4 years later. But you're going to get a lot better, and it's going to be natural just by going out and doing it.
All right. Another question from Manny. Do you change your negotiation strategy based on the personality of the person? Like, say, for example, using mirroring with one person and not using with somebody else? Is there one that works with one personality type and doesn't work with another?
I think the mirroring and labeling and some of those strategies that Chris talks a lot about, I think those are like universal. You know, they work with just about everyone because it's really just a way of asking a question. You know, like when I say, you know, it seems like you're upset, or, you know, it sounds like, you know, you're excited about this, or, you know, whatever it might be, that is essentially just me stating something. It's just me learning how am I going to state things in a way that I know I'm going to get some kind of response back. But the answer to your question specifically is yes, of course. If I'm speaking to Jerome, I'm going to have a different speech pattern than if I'm speaking to a super analytical person who's probably going to be more thoughtful, and their speech is probably going to be a little bit slower. Versus if I'm speaking to Jerome and he's like, hey, we're here and I'm there and I'm, you know, and we're moving quick, because the way people think is differently. So it's a different kind of mirroring, but it's where you actually start matching the pace that the people are speaking at, which allows them to be thinking at the same level that you're thinking. So I do kind of change up some of the strategies or the way that I communicate. And I'll be honest, while I was actively on the phones buying houses in Raleigh, North Carolina, coming from Minnesota originally, living in California at the time, and then in Denver, I started speaking with an accent. Not intentionally, but I just did. Or I'd talk to people in northern Minnesota, and I'd start being, oh yeah, don't you know, hey, you know, I'd love to take a look at that. I don't know if anyone, you know, and you just start changing the way you talk. You're talking to somebody who's deep south in the country in North Carolina. They're going to talk way different than someone in Raleigh. And you just start adding in. You start saying y'all. You start saying things that are comfortable with that person. That's part of the rapport building. And it really does play a difference. Now, you want to be authentic. So I'm not just going to start throwing like a heavy, thick Southern accent on. But I might, you know, it just naturally, you kind of start adapting to that communication. It's just a human nature to kind of adapt. But if you can be intentional about it and still be authentic, then it can definitely help you.
Oh, that's great. And Jerome says, any secrets on how you were able to get mass adoption on your podcast?
Yeah. So the biggest thing I think in life is you want to attract people to you, and you want to ask for what you want, right? So I was fortunate that before I launched, I already had attracted folks into my sphere of influence. People were interested. I had been on Bigger Pockets. I'd been on a few other shows. I had attracted people to me through masterminds and personal connections through Facebook and some of these other places. And then I asked for them to adopt the podcast, for them to give it a shot. And so when I launched, one of the things that I did, which is really important, is that I asked for people to go check it out. Just the same way I'm asking you guys who've been listening here to go take a listen to the Investor Mindset on your favorite podcasting app. And if you like it, hit the subscribe button. And if you really like it, to drop a 5-star review. Because when someone drops a 5-star review, it tells Apple that, hey, this is something that other people like. Maybe this person's going to like it, or this person. And it pops it up higher in the algorithm, and it gives more people an opportunity to see it. So if you really want to help me out, that's one way to do it. It's something I'm always grateful for. But I asked for a lot of people to do it early on, and we got about 100 reviews in a week, and we sat for about 8 weeks on New and Noteworthy, which is a big, big accomplishment. And it ends up kind of playing a little bit of a, you know, once you start getting those downloads, it starts to accelerate. So we're a top 1,000 podcast out of 700,000, top 200 in investing. And some of those reasons is just because of being willing to ask, and then also attract people into the sphere, because, you know, I'm kind of giving. So you're already doing a lot of that yourself, so no worries on that, Jerome. But if that's valuable to anyone else, you know, hopefully you guys can use that in your own life.
All right. Any more questions for Steven? Please drop your questions in the chat.
Well, I just want to say thank you to everyone for participating and listening. It was fun to be able to share some of this stuff. If you thought it was valuable, shoot me a message on any platform, from LinkedIn to Facebook to email. I'll drop my email in here just so people have it. And if you have some interest in investing or participating in any of the stuff we do, just reach out. happy to like jump on a quick 15, 20-minute phone call, understand what's good for you, and be able to point you in the right direction, whether it's with us or not. We've got some great deals coming down the pipeline, couple 220 unit building, and some other really cool things. But if you're interested, you can always reach out. Happy to be of value or service, even if we're not investing together. So
before you run away, Jerome wants to know if you did talk about F-bombs
what's the F-bomb?
in the book.
Yeah, of course. Fair. The old fair. Yeah, I didn't talk a lot about fair, but there's this concept in the book where essentially they say, Jerome, do you want to mention it? Looks like you just unmuted yourself. No, I'm sorry, that was someone else. Okay, so essentially when somebody says it's a fair deal, that's kind of like somebody outlining, hey, I'm screwing you over right now. Like, if someone's saying it's fair and they're trying to tell you it's fair, you kind of want to run away from that. You want to like never use that term yourself, never drop the F-bomb. Jerome, am I missing something here? I've definitely spent a lot of time thinking about it, but I'm blanking on the F-bomb.
No, you're hitting it right on the head, man. It's just the importance of, I do it on the flip side, right? Somebody offers me a deal, Steve's, it was fair that Steve was able to get that deal in Raleigh today instead of me getting that phone call, and he's 1,500 miles away, right? But the whole concept is you appeal to the moral compass. So if somebody's got the upper hand, you don't have the leverage, then you drop in, well, I don't know if that's fair. Or the flip side of it, this is a really fair deal for you. And it allows you.
You seem like a really fair guy, Jerome. You seem like the kind of guy who's really going to be thinking about how do you get things done on both sides. And really, I can tell because of the character that I know that you're going to really take good care of me and you're going to make a fair offer, right?
Absolutely right, Steve. I'm going to make the offer that's fair for me.
That's
We
great.
got
I
some
love that.
negotiation going on in the house right now. I love it. Oh, that's perfect. That's really good. Anything else? I know you already mentioned some of the great stuff you're working on, and please, guys, the links to Steven's podcast, his website, his email is in the chat. Reach out to him. He's a great mind, someone you could learn a lot from. He's someone that I learned a lot from myself. Reach out to Jerome as well. He's a great player in the field. He's been very helpful, tremendous in my growth, and I appreciate that. So if you have any questions, please reach out to these people and ask the questions. And Steven, I'll let you, whatever else you want to put out there so they know what you're working on and if they want to be part of it as well.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you, Leslie, and let's get some thank yous in the chat box for Leslie for organizing this. It takes a lot to organize an event online or in person. It makes a huge difference to be able to bring people together. So let's give some thank yous his way if he puts out opportunities to work together from a coaching perspective, I know you're not really doing that, but from a working on passive deals perspective, definitely take a good look. Because somebody who's going to put in that extra time to give back to the community is the kind of person that you want to be investing with. So thank you for doing that. And thank you everyone for showing up, not for me, but for yourself, because you're only going to get the places you want to go by taking action. And this is one of the ways that you can take action. So the way that I leave every podcast interview, the way I'm going to leave you tonight, as I'm going to go sign off and celebrate. My birthday's next week. I'm actually heading out of town to Hawaii for a month. So I'm just celebrating the birthday right after we get out of here. So I'm going to head upstairs and go enjoy dinner with the family. But before I head out, I want to remind you guys to be an inspiration to others so that they can go out and live a better life. And the way that you do that is by taking the stuff we learned, by picking out one thing at minimum, scheduling it into your calendar and go acting upon it. Go do something with this. If the thought was to yourself, hey, I want to go practice that strategy, or I want to go and do this challenge, and I'm going to go get rejected at Starbucks asking for a discount, go do it. Do it a few times. And then don't do it for the expectation that you're going to share it with somebody so they can give you kudos. Do it for yourself so that you can grow yourself and share it with them so they might be inspired to go and do that same stuff themselves, because you each individually can make a difference in other people's lives. And it's the thing that I realized. For a while, I was only focused on me. It's great. Can do great things. But if I can help you guys make some big realizations, I'm happy to take an hour and a half out of my day to come and share. if you guys are willing to go and do the same yourself. And I know you are, because you're here and you're all givers. So I appreciate it. It's been a pleasure spending time with you guys. And always let me know if I can ever be of value to anybody else.
Thank you so much, Stephen. I'm also dropping my phone number and email in the chat. If you need to reach out to me, send a text message, send an email. Also visit our website, www.excitecapitalinvestment.com. We have another event coming up this Saturday where we have some of the top accountants in the nation on real estate, Anderson Tax Advisors, doing a free webinar on asset protection and how you can leverage your real estate assets to save on taxes. So please, the link is going to be dropped in the chat as well. Join in, register. It's a great event, great speakers coming to talk. So take advantage of that. And we're just going to do virtual networking for another 15, 20 minutes so you get to meet each other on the chat box and share your information and see how we could all continue to help each other grow and continue to learn from each other. Thank you so much, Stephen, for taking the time to be with our community today. I truly appreciate you. Appreciate all you're doing in the space. And I know you're on to bigger and great things. We'll keep learning from you and keep following behind your footsteps. Thank you so much for being with us this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. See you guys.
All right. All right. Just give me a minute. I'm going to set up the chat here, and then we can start meeting each other. Hang on for the chat so you get to meet other meetup members. So breakout rooms here, we're gonna do maybe 5 here. Automatically create. All right. How many minutes? So we're gonna go in there, learn about each other for a few minutes. All right. Please unmute yourself so you could chat. Hi, Kaylin, Ria. Oh, damn it. Participants. Can you unmute yourself? Hi, Ria. Did I pronounce your name correctly? Jad. I guess you're the only one left.